you're the regular person out there addicted to the cupcakes, the Snickers bars. You got a plan for us, for regular
Yeah,
our
so
modern mortals?
well, I'm a regular guy too. I was a consultant. I was working in corporate America, extremely overweight at the time, depressed, got dumped, was on food stamps. So I am the regular Joe.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Today, Kevin Curry, founder of Fit Man Cook, explains how he reimagined his relationship with food and the step-by-step process he used. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue high-protein chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off.
All right, Joe De Sena here for Spartan Up Podcast. I got Kevin Curry. This guy is a genius when it comes to avoiding the ultra-processed foods, eating healthy, and not getting depressed. I mean, can I call you a genius in those areas?
Oh, okay, thanks. I appreciate it. It's really generous. Maybe too generous.
Tell me what happened. Apparently you were I don't know, were you depressed because you were eating, making food, poor food choices, or were you making poor food choices and that got you depressed?
I think depression is just something that I've always kind of struggled with like my entire life, and it was exacerbated with food. I think that whenever we look at feelings of like depression and loneliness and those like feelings of like despondency, we are so quick to medicate with food and to cope with food. That's the first thing that we'll go ahead and reach for. And so that just deepens the depression because it makes you feel worse. In fact, the highest amount of serotonin is in our stomachs, right? So there's a huge connection with how we feel and what we eat.
I was told by some neuroscientists that we're really motivated by the avoidance of discomfort, sex, and food. And maybe not in that order.
Okay. I thought you were saying that people like avoid sex. I'm like, okay, no, but sex is the motivating factor. I get it now. I'm on the same page. It's like, I don't know about that. Who's avoiding that?
No. I think people want to avoid discomfort at all costs. They don't want to do the workout. They don't want to not eat the cookie. They don't want to wake up early, right? That's a big motivating factor, and that's kept us alive for a long time on the planet. They certainly want sex. And as you know, and we're going to talk about, they love food.
Yeah, you know what? I have to agree with that. People don't want to go through that process. No one really does. Nobody wants to feel like out of place, out of their own like comfort zone. And so it is really easy to go ahead and do those things. But here's what I've always told people too, which is why I really love the place that I'm in and the place where people have found themselves in too, is that the healthy eating and living well just kind of unlocks a lot of stuff for you, just because the things that you would learn from like having healthier eating habits, those skill sets are directly transferable to every other area like of your life, because it takes a lot of effort to say, hey, you know what, this Snicker bar feels really, really good. I know it's going to taste really good, but it's not going to make me feel good afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and eat this apple. Of course, that is a really extreme example. If you want to eat the Snicker. But I'm saying that like, overall, those things that you would learn from being a lot more disciplined in eating and whatnot, those things are transferable to other areas of your life, because it takes a lot of discipline and just hard work to do that.
It does take hard work. I mean, there's no chance we're going to get Snickers now as a sponsor, thanks to you. I'm kidding.
My bad. Snickers, go ahead. Come on.
Did you find, because I think we're all guilty. For me, I'm lucky. People say, Joe, what's your cheat food, right? And so I try to stay away from, carbs. I try to eat a lot of plant-based foods. But here's an example. Right next to the computer right now, check this out, is a scone that someone in the house made. Somebody made this scone from scratch, and for the kids, and I can't impose my will on them at all times, but I'm looking at this scone, and that would be a major cheat for me. And one of the ways that I succeed is just by not having stuff around.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of those foods around, and here's something that like I'll just go ahead and say, To answer your question, yes. So the things that I actually struggle with, like lots of sweets, I won't keep a lot of sweets in my house just because that is my like downfall. I can eat cupcakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Period. That's my MO. Right. But I've learned just to kind of reimagine my relationship like with food, not looking at it much more as like good or bad, but it's just there's just another option out there. And I've also connected the way that I want to feel with the food that I put into my body. Right. So food that you really would like to enjoy, like that scone, is also going to make you feel bad. Right. But why does it have to? Why can't we, reimagine a scone in another type of way, preparing it differently with different ingredients that wouldn't really bloat us or that could be a lot more like complimentary. And so I'm much more in the phase of like, how do we reimagine food, but also taking that scone that's there like in your house. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's something wrong with eating that every single day and for every single meal, or if you have health problems, but there's nothing wrong with the scone. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I had to mute you out. I didn't want my kids to hear you say there's nothing wrong with a scone. No. So give me a day in the life of Kevin Curry. What are you eating? Breakfast.
Breakfast, gosh, as a guy that talks about variety all the time, I'm a creature of habit. So breakfast is pretty simple for me. It's either like an avocado toast with some eggs and salmon, or I have been known to eat like back today I had a bagel with eggs, with bagel with eggs, something that that's pretty quick and easy. I'm all about the grab and go right now in this place in my life. On Saturdays, maybe when there's a little bit more time, my brunch game is pretty strong. I like to either go out to eat or make something for myself. I love like smoking salmon. So that's one of my go-tos on a weekend.
And so lunch, give me lunch.
Lunch is usually something that's pretty quick and easy. So I usually do like a stir-fried rice, either using some jasmine rice or some day-old like brown rice. I've been trying to cut corners, like in the recent times because I cook all the time. So I don't want to cook all the time. So I'll get like a rotisserie chicken and chop that up and put that into the rice and then just make a traditional thing like that. Maybe swapping out the peas because I'm not a big fan of that for edamame. For dinner, it's usually one of my go-tos is chili. And the process of making chili for me has become much more enjoyable. I mean, as equally as enjoyable as the food, as the process. So like, I'm all about trying to find new ways to make it. So I've made a chocolate one, I've made a beer chili, I've made wine. And then even recently, this is gonna blow your mind, I actually made a shrimp chili. And the shrimp, I got the shrimp to look like it's ground meat and whatnot. So that was that was a pretty cool experiment. That actually came out well.
I'm not hearing a lot of salad. Are you a big salad guy?
I don't eat salads like that. No, I don't like to. The salads that I like to eat are actually chopped salads.
Chopped salad. So, it has to be
yeah,
chopped.
Yeah. In fact, I made one today for the adult lunchbox. So making a Greek salad, chopped salad. But generally, yeah, I don't eat the same thing, so it's hard to to really answer just like fully like this is what I eat from week to week because it generally just changes. It depends on what type of mood I'm in. But salads, it's got to be chopped, and I do mine like really finely chopped the way that they make them out there in California.
I'm gonna connect you with the Sprout Man. My buddy only eats sprouts, Doug. And literally only sprouts. That's all he eats. And he's living out in the desert right now. And I'm going to connect you two guys. I want you to talk.
On purpose? He's doing that?
On purpose. He's doing that. And part of it is convenience. He's living in the desert. And so it's easy to grow sprouts. Costs like 10 cents a day. Super nutritious. But anyway, I'm going to connect you with him. Separate story. How did you turn it around from cupcakes to a healthy, healthy style of eating? Because most of us we're just stuck.
Once you get tired of feeling a certain way and tired of your certain, like your circumstances, I feel like everyone has to reach their own proverbial rock bottom moment. It's just where like you have to be intrinsically motivated to be like, all right, I really want to make this change. I am going to go ahead and make this change. And that's what happened to me. I hit my rock bottom. I went back to a trainer and he kind of tried to put me on the same diet of chicken breast, brown rice, and broccoli. And I just wasn't going to fly with it. I was just thinking that it doesn't really make a lot of sense that we have all this amazing food and cuisines around the world and we're just not supposed to eat it. I just don't think fundamentally that makes a lot of sense. So what I did was I went on this journey to try to reimagine food for me. And I would take foods that I really, really liked. Living here in Texas, Mexican food is a huge part of our culture. So one food that I would eat all the time was a quesadilla. I took a traditional quesadilla, broke down the different ingredients. And then I said, all right, Kev, how can we cut the calories by about 50, 60%? So I was making different swaps for the different ingredients and preparing the ingredients in different ways. And that's what happened. And that was the first meal that I ever kind of like made over to be a lot more calorie conscious. Now, did it taste like the original recipe that I get from my little thing, my favorite taco shop? No, but it wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to, remind me of the essence of it, but also it puts the food into a form that like I really, really loved. And so all of a sudden, this food that I was told, that I couldn't eat, and that made me feel bad whenever I ate it, was now making me feel energized.
You're the regular person out there addicted to the cupcakes, the Snickers bars, the scones. Simple 1, 2, 3 steps. You got a plan for us? Regular,
yeah, so
immortals.
Well, I'm a regular guy too, so let's start there. I'm very regular in terms of like I'm not classically trained in anything. I don't have a background in fitness. I'm not sure what your background is, Joe, but but I was a consultant. I was working in corporate America, extremely overweight at the time, depressed, got dumped. Was on food stamps. So I am the regular Joe.
You look so fit and healthy though. That's why you
no pun there. Well, it's been years. It's been years since doing this, and so it just becomes like habit, like growing over. But one thing that I did was, I'm that person I would look at people like online and try to emulate like what they did. And at the time, meal prep was becoming a lot more popular. So I was trying to cook all my food in bulk and do all those things. And I don't advocate that kind of stuff in bulk like this in order to make a lifestyle change, because that's how I failed. I was doing too much too early. So instead of boiling the ocean or trying to boil the ocean, I want you just to take like a little small pot of water from the ocean and let's boil that. So what that means, if you're addicted to cupcakes, for me, I was addicted to like sodas. Right? I could drink soda all the time. So I said, all right, Kev, you have 2 sodas each day. We are going to get you down to drinking 1 soda each day. Then I did one soda every other day. Then I said, all right, Kev, you're going to get 1 soda each week. That's what I worked my way up. You know how much confidence I got and I gained from being able to do that one thing? That gave me confidence to start to tackle my diet. And instead of trying to prep all this food and spend hours in the kitchen trying to figure stuff out, I'm realizing that like in working in like corporate America, I'm spending a lot of money eating out. So I'm going to bring my lunch each day. I'm going to bring my lunch for 1 month straight. And I did that. And then I said, all right, I missed the time out with with my coworker. So on Fridays, I'm going to allow that day is a day that I can go out and eat with my coworkers. But here's the catch, Kevin. You still have to eat something that's calorie conscious that would be in line with something that you would cook. So I'm giving my taste buds a break. I'm giving myself a break like from the kitchen, but I'm also incorporating some of the socializing. So there are small incremental things that you can do in order to balloon up to the change that you would like.
Sorry, my dog, at the very tail end of that, my dog came in and tried to eat the scone. Clearly doesn't have the willpower you have. I love what you said, though, because if I was doing a long run, and we're talking to people that are trying to do really hard things physically, it is too much to take on. You get decision fatigue. It's like boiling the ocean. I love what you said. And so we say to people, just run to the corner. When you get to the corner, run to the next corner. And before you know it, you string together 50 corners, you've made it 5 miles, whatever, right? So I love that idea of, all right, I'm going to have a soda a day, to a soda a week, to a soda a month. I met a guy. I had a guy on the farm, by the way, where Spartan was started. He was 696 pounds. I said,
Mm.
how did you get there? He said, you know, it just happened. He said, I started drinking sodas. I started eating Egg McMuffins. Before you know it, I was drinking, I think he was drinking three 2-liter Sprites a day.
Oh, yeah.
And 8 Egg McMuffins.
Yeah.
And he ballooned to 696 pounds. So it could get you both ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
you were just eating one cupcake leads to 2 or 3 or 4, and before you know it, it's
Yeah.
out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the, that's what like addiction looks like. I think that we can all like look in the different areas in our own life to see where there could be some similarities there. But yeah, like once you start something and it feels good, and what it is, like you're chasing that high. You're chasing the feeling that you get, that sensation, and studies have shown that like you just really never get that back. In fact, in eating sweets, I was really looking into it. They were saying that like after you really only need about 2 bites of the dessert. After that, technically you just kind of chase that first feeling of that first bite, and it's never the same. Now, that while that was a wonderful like observation, it still hasn't stopped me from eating my entire dessert. But I think there's something to be said there, and just how addicting food can be like that.
You just gave me a great idea. You and I should go into business. We should make spray bottles of like chocolate cakes. and, and all you gotta do is just like, I really want that chocolate cake. Take a spray.
The spray.
A little spray.
I love it.
Isn't that great?
I love that idea.
And you could have like a whole toolbox full of sprays. Like I'm looking for a vanilla Swiss almond ice cream spray.
You need to put that in some of those races when you're at the checkpoint. There you go. I think I'm gonna get this vanilla cake right now.
So what if we had to give 3 tips for people on budget? One, it sounds like one would be how do you say it? Wean yourself off step at a time?
Yeah. Start small. That's what it would be. Start small. With like whatever you do, and work your way up. In the same way that I was talking about the Coca-Cola or the Coke example, the soda example, I can also say the same thing for cooking. I started out with just prepping my lunch, and then that went over to me, all right, let me prep my breakfast. And then after that, I was like, after workouts, I'm pretty hungry. Why don't I prep like what I'm gonna eat after my workouts in the evening times? And all of a sudden, I was just doing that incrementally, and not really paying attention. And then literally it was maybe like a couple months into it, I was like, I haven't had my weekly Whataburger meal. And the reason why is I wasn't missing it, because I was giving myself a wide variety of foods and minerals, and I had completely transformed my diet, quote unquote, overnight, but I wasn't trying to go and do that. I was just enjoying the ride. It started out with just my lunch, but lunch became so easy that I was like, well, let me go and do something else. So that's the way that you have to do it. You have to ladder up changes. Don't do everything at once. The other thing that I'd say for number 2 is, run your own race. It's so easy to look at everyone else, especially in this age of social media, and say, well, this person is doing this, so I have to do it too, or my friend said this, so I got to go ahead and do. You got to really figure out what works for you. And that's the beautiful thing about this journey that you're going to be on, and that you are on, is that it's completely crafted for you. So what that also means is that what works for Joe and what works for Kevin, it may not work for you, and that's okay. That's why it's so important to really focus on you and be selfish, and kind of just focus on what's on your plate and how your body is changing and how you're feeling and how you are performing in the different areas of your life. That's the most important thing. And I have to just go ahead and tell you too, as a Cliff Notes version of this, this is also the most frustrating part, because we live in a culture that preaches instant results. We live in a culture that says you got 6-pack abs in 10 days. I ain't seen no 6-pack abs. You already had 6-pack abs if you get them in 10 days. But we're not accustomed to waiting. To Joe's point, what you brought up at the very beginning of the podcast, is like, we don't like to feel uncomfortable. but it takes that to get to where you're going. So run your own race.
And you just got me thinking. It really all ties together. If the three pillars of human focus, or the things we're most interested in, the desires we have are the avoidance of discomfort, sex, and food. If you're able to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and maybe eat a little less and a little healthier, maybe go out and run whether it's raining or not, you'll probably get, and you're willing to eat healthier food, you'll probably get more sex. So it's all tied together.
It's all a good circle. It's all really good.
So really, it's just a Spartan mindset. What I love that you said at the very beginning was you had a bagel with eggs, and that was okay. And I didn't hear you say I had 8 bagels with eggs. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like you've got your controls in place.
Yeah, I know what works for me, and yeah, that's just it. Like, I don't, what I'll say, Joe, and this is going to be interesting, me saying this because the person that I am, but like, I don't perform my diet for anybody, even though I share what I'm eating, but I don't perform my diet I don't put it out there to be like, all right, this is to put on, for everybody else. I eat what I eat just because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like a certain way. So that's the way that we should all like be approaching life and be approaching our diets. You're going to find out what works for you. And that's good. Like you said, you stay away from carbs. All right. I love me some carbs. I've done keto. I did a keto plan for about 10 weeks. Loved it. I wanted to become a lot more competent in the diet, to understand it, for recipe design. And it was great. Now, that particular diet doesn't really fit my lifestyle either. Well, maybe this year it does, just because I'm not traveling. But when I would travel and taste different things, that stuff is not keto friendly. So you have to, at the end of the day, find out what's good for you and what works for you, not only in your diet, but also in your lifestyle. I guess so many people ask me the same thing about intermittent fasting. And should I do it, Kevin? Should I go and do the intermittent fasting diet? And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. You kind of go out every night with your friends and you're out there, Mr. Socialite. So, and I was like, well, that's going to interrupt that. So you got to figure out like what type of lifestyle that you want and make sure that the diets that you choose, the way that you eat, complements that.
I like that. I like to say that your values and your beliefs and your actions all have to line up. And so that's what you're basically saying. Like, hey, I value being healthy, but I think it's okay to smoke a cigarette that's not lining up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all right. So the people that are listening around the world to this, they want to start tomorrow. Okay. What are they starting with? Ground zero. First thing they're doing.
Oh, we're talking about the ones that are starting brand new.
They want to eat a little healthier. They like the Kevin Curry story. They want to eat everybody could eat a little healthier. I don't care where you are. Everybody could eat a little healthier.
Yeah. For me, you can emulate, I guess, like what I did. And for me, I'm all about flavor. So I took a meal that I really like, that I know that's not too calorie conscious, and I re-engineered it. So maybe that's a way that you can start your own pathway. Instead of looking at foods and placing values on them, saying this is bad and this is good over here, why don't you decide like what's good for you, because you're gonna have to define health in your own terms. But take that food and say, all right, how can I make it a lot more calorie conscious? I took my quesadilla and found out how I could reduce the calories by over 50%. What's that meal or those foods in your life that you'd like to take and to reimagine? What I would say, again, is that the foods, when you reimagine food, it's not going to ever taste like the original recipe. If you want the original recipe, just go ahead and eat that. I think personally, there is a part within any diet, and with any balanced lifestyle and diet, to enjoy the foods that you really want, including the scone. Now, how you do that and the frequency of it and how much you eat of that, that's the part that we're going to have to debate.
All right, here's what I want you to figure out. You don't have to do it now for the podcast, but maybe we can get in touch with each other. I'm going to take the idea of the sprouts and your idea of reimagining my favorite meal, which is eggplant parmesan. And if you can make me an eggplant parm out of sprouts, I'm going to be really healthy.
Out of sprouts.
You're only allowed to use sprouts.
Okay. You know, I'm not sure if I can accept that challenge. Some things are almost just nearly impossible. Oh gosh.
But you know, what Doug said to me, I don't know if you agree with this or not, because he was normal guy eating rotisserie chicken off the street. You know, he said it took him a while, but eventually his taste buds changed where he actually likes the taste of sprouts now. So your taste buds do change.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point that I'd like to underscore here. And this is what I work with some parents on too, because they're like, my kids are picky eaters. They don't like that stuff. Well, there was a study done, I believe back in the early 2000s, and they were using lab mice. And I wish I could quote it a little bit better, but essentially they were giving the lab mice a food that they didn't really like or enjoy, but over time they started to eat it, and really prefer that food over another food that they put in there. So the conclusion that they were drawing was that we teach ourselves what tastes good. So over time, you teach yourself what can actually taste good. So if you want your kids to start eating healthy, the more you introduce that food to them, the more their brains will pick up and they'll be like, hey, this isn't so bad. It actually tastes okay. The more we eat foods like that, the more that we become comfortable. We're like, it's actually okay. I didn't start drinking coffee until much later in life because I thought it was just extremely bitter. But the more I had it during work, I'm like, coffee tastes pretty darn good. I really do like it. It's just like anything else. You just have to introduce it a lot more.
I'm glad we met. I'm super pumped about our new business, the sprays. Anything
I love it.
Anything else you want to cover?
No. Thanks so much. Thanks for creating the Spartan Race. I have not been able to make it out to one just yet. I have done other obstacle courses, and that was one of my my big goals to go and do. I've done 2 of them. I haven't graduated to the big boy yet with the Spartan, so maybe after the world is back to normal, I would love to go and do that.
I'm sending you and all your friends, virtually and in-person friends, I'm sending you entries to Spartan, and I'm gonna have I'm gonna have sprout cupcakes at the finish line when you get there.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Gone Rogue High Protein Chips. Visit Amazon or GoneRogueSnacks.com and use the promo code Spartan25 to get 25% off.